Sale. What has happened there, boys?
Goody, before you get going on this, no one's shown any concern for the lads who've gone down with it. Man, forget the rugby. I'm thinking, what are their symptoms? Are they ill? Are they on oxygen? Are they all right? How serious is this for young professional athletes? No one's asking. Everyone's just saying, mate, there's no rugby, which I get as well. But mate, it's just my character, mate. I just care for people, and I also want to see how serious the situation we find ourselves in really is across the board. But it went from 16 to 19. What I'm hearing now.
Yeah, it's 16. From what I hear, it's 16 players and then 3 members of staff. And it's been a bit, let's be honest, it's been, the way everything's gone on, it's been a complete shit show for me. And you're right, Jim, no one's really said about the 16 players. Are they actually okay? What sort of level of COVID have they got? Are they any in hospital? Any news that we know? Nothing. It's all about, just cancel the game, or why is it being postponed? It's the last round of the Premiership. And then you dig into the facts of it and understand what's happened. And it is, it's pretty interesting, some of the stuff coming out. And it all goes back to, we spoke about on the pod a couple of weeks ago, Sale won the Premiership Rugby Cup against Quins. And then you've got Pat Lam coming in saying how they got 19 positive tests. They must be doing something wrong. People accuse some of the players of going out on the smash in Manchester. Steve Diamond's denied it. There's loads of different factors that are going on. And then Phil Winstanley, who's the Premiership Rugby Director.
From
Manchester. It doesn't matter where he is.
People have said, he used to play for Sale. People have said that. But I don't think he has made decisions because he used to play for Sale. But there's a load of ambiguity around why the game wasn't forfeited, like the Gloucester-Northampton game was, because Northampton couldn't put a team out. And understandably, as it's the last round of Premiership fixtures with so much at stake, you can see them trying to find a solution. But I don't think that solution sits particularly well across the game of rugby, with people talking about keeping the integrity of the competition to allow everyone to qualify for the top 4. Well, the integrity of the competition, has that been, what's the word I'm after here? Has that
tarnished?
Has the integrity of the competition been tarnished by the fact that some people are claiming that Sale should have just forfeited the game? Steve Diamond said he could have put a fit team out of 23. I'm not sure how you can do that with the test and trace system. The RFU are investigating everything around, did they go out a night out? Well, the facts that I've been told are there was a bit of a tear-up at the training ground after they've won the Premiership Cup final. So they've gone back to the training ground and had a few beers. Other people around the game are saying that there's
reports. That's hardly a tear-up, is it, mate? A few beers will tear up, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? So, in reality, if you're in your own bubble, you win a competition. If that was me, I'd be wanting to have a few beers together as a group, either at the ground or at the training ground. With the world we're living in now, you can't be going out on the smash into Manchester. I think the bars were closed anyway. But I think the question comes when you've gone back to the training ground and you've had a load of beers. Steve Diamond's denied that the boys went out into Manchester. He's been pretty clever with his words, because actually he hasn't denied the fact that they went to the training ground and had a load of beers.
But that's fine. I don't see what the problem is with that.
And Premiership Rugby actually told Harlequins and Sale, whatever happens at that final, please be responsible at the final whistle, after the game, with your actions. Now, drinking at your own training ground in that bubble, not a problem at all. You celebrated, you won a cup. I don't have an issue with that. I'd expect teams to do that. I think what has become apparent is somehow there's been a false negative test, which has become a positive. Next thing you know, there's 19 people at the club, which I believe is 16 players and 3 staff that have tested positive for COVID. Steve Diamond's still saying he can put a team out. All those people, how do you self-isolate those people but still put a team out, in terms of if they've been in contact because they've been training together? Then, these are things that we're just sort of talking about now and dissecting with Jim's open cloth as to what has happened, but we don't have all the facts around what is the test and trace system look like, what are the protocols that all the clubs have agreed to. Steve Diamond has openly gone on to BT Sport yesterday and said that they adhered to every protocol. And he's basically stated the reason the game didn't get forfeited, because they could have put a match day 23 out, which would have been probably a load of the academy kids. but they never. And then why it sits, and there's a lot of ambiguity around that. They didn't announce a team. There was, people are then saying, "Our Premiership Rugby are bending over backwards. It's one rule for one rule for another," because obviously Northampton forfeited the game. Northampton come out and say whatever Phil Winstanley said on BT Sport last night was false, because they wanted to register other players, and Premiership Rugby via the RFU said no, you couldn't. Phil Winstanley said that wasn't the case. So either way, there's cock-ups galore going on, isn't there? There's cross-paths, there's cross-referencing of different things. Steve Diamond saying they didn't go out on the piss. People are saying they did. How have they got 19 positive cases? You've got Pat Lam joining the conversation saying there's something seriously gone wrong there. Why has that happened? The RFU are now investigating it. And the bottom line is, no one, like Jim said, no one's asked if those players are all right. And that's ultimately the main thing. And now Alan Solomons, the Worcester coach, has come out and said, actually, do I want to put my club in a position where we go and play against Sale? How do we know how many people have had it, got it, without the testing process coming forward, which they will get to? But then is it still a risk that you can all of a sudden go from one positive test on a Friday to 19 positive tests a few days later? So
Can you imagine if Worcester pull out of the game and Sale win 20-0?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? But Alan Solomons has got a responsibility for the health and safety of his players. And the sensible thing, and it's this is where we're standing, why there's so much ambiguity around it. The sensible thing for Premiership Rugby to have done would have just said, listen, you're going to have to forfeit the game because you've got so many positive test cases of COVID.
I don't think Sale would have been that bothered.
I think they would. I think they would.
Yeah, obviously, they would have been bothered. But what can you say? You'd be like, of course. So if they turn around and say, you've got to forfeit the game, and the reasons is because you've got in your squad, and at 19, it could be more now because it seems to spread like wildfire, you can't play the game. No one, apart from Sale, would be thinking, this is a travesty. Everyone would be like, well, of course. Because even if you play it on Wednesday, there's still risk. And again, I'm not a doctor, albeit I probably should have been. And compared to some of the stuff that we've heard of some of the people we've seen on TV, maybe I bloody am, is you'd be worried. If you're Worcester, like you've just said then, I'd be worried as a player.
100%.
So, this is why. So Sale don't have a leg to stand on in that sense, do they? They don't. Especially I'm going to say, I've not said it for a while. I've got everyone looking at me in the garage. Unprecedented times.
Well said, Jim.
Mate, so what they're going to do?
But you do sit there and you look at the reasons we're in this mess now. And the mess is obviously because Sale are desperate to get this game played because they know there's an opportunity to win the title, which I get. As a club, we had Simon Orange on here, great bloke. He desperately wanted to win the title. So their PR team, and I wrote a column about it for Rugby Pass, strong-armed, I believe, Premiership Rugby into saying, actually, we can put a team out, so the game is going ahead. And they put a statement out saying the game is going ahead as planned. And, all of a sudden, it's cancelled. And then they put another statement out, Sale do, blaming Worcester, saying, well, Worcester didn't feel comfortable. No shit, they wouldn't feel comfortable. You've had 19 cases. So for me, I think what Premiership Rugby should have done, you've got Darren Childs as CEO, you've got Phil Winstanley, who went on BT Sport, come out and said, as Jim has alluded to, these are unprecedented times. The regulations state that if you've got a number of positive cases and, there's a risk factor, you have to forfeit the game. And you feel for Northampton because they've been pushed into a corner. They had 2 fit front rowers where you need 6. The RFU said they couldn't then register any more players, so they had to forfeit the game. And that was all to do with the test and trace system by coming into close contact with all those Sale players that have tested positive for COVID post that Northampton game.